Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about alcohol use disorder, both for boards, and I'll be putting in some practice essentials, so this will help you in practice as well. How do you say that someone has a drinking problem, right? So that is defined as a woman drinking more than 7 drinks, consuming more than 7 drinks per week, and a man consuming more than 14 drinks per week. This is sad. I wish women had better tolerance for alcohol, but that does not happen. And you can also think of it as more than 3 drinks a day, and for a male that's more than 4 per day. Okay, and when you think about binging, it's going to be more 4 or more drinks in a row, right? Or 5 or more drinks in a row for a man, right? So that is how you say somebody has a drinking problem, right? Now, let's say that there's somebody who came into your office and you're suspecting that they might be an alcoholic, right? So how do you go about, asking them about this? So there are 2 questionnaires. The first one is the cage questionnaire, and then there's the audit questionnaire. The audit questionnaire is a little bit longer and thorough. I haven't covered it in this particular video, but you can take a look at it online, go through all the elements of the audit questionnaire and the scoring and everything, and this is how you interpret the results. But I'm going to be covering cage questionnaire in this video because that has been very extensively studied, and it tends to be quite effective in screening for patients. So the cage questionnaire goes like this. The first question is, have you ever felt the need to cut down on alcohol? The second A stands for, have you ever felt annoyed by people criticizing your drinking? Right? Have you ever felt guilty about your alcohol use? And the last one is, have you ever felt the need to drink the first thing in the morning just to stabilize your system? Right, so this is the cage questionnaire, and usually when somebody has answered yes to 2 or more questions on the cage questionnaire, it usually means that they have 7 times increased risk of developing alcohol use disorder compared to a patient that has not had, that has gotten 0 or 1 among these 4, right? Now, the most important way to engage an alcohol use disorder patient is to do motivational interviewing. I will cover that in a separate video because I don't want to go into it right now, but motivational interviewing is it's effective for all substance use disorders, not just alcohol. It's basically being open-ended in your questions, empathetic, not sympathetic, empathetic and open-ended, and basically you're encouraging them to come to the conclusion on their own. Like, you're not telling them, oh, you need to stop drinking. You're gonna strategize the conversation in such a way that they come to that conclusion on their own, right? Now I'm going to talk about blood labs that you can do to detect alcoholism in a patient. Now, when you think about, like, someone becoming acute, someone coming in with acute alcohol poisoning, you want to do ETG, which stands for ethyl glucuronide, right? This is what we call blood alcohol level. Okay, this is good for like someone who has had acute poisoning, but for chronic, right, there are very many labs. I'm going to speak about one or two of them, because this is more of a very general video that I'm making about alcohol use disorder. I mean, we can always go into it in depth, but I have included an image that shows like the relative sensitivities and specificities of the labs that are used for chronic alcohol poisoning. The most sensitive and specific lab for this is going to be CDT plus GGT. Now, GGT, as you already know, stands for gamma glutamyl transferase, which is a liver enzyme. CDT, on the other hand, stands for what is known as carbohydrate deficient transferrin, right? Transferrin. So when you put these two tests together, I'm not talking about just CDT or just GGT. It's these two together that gives us a sensitivity of 90 and a specificity of 98. So this could easily be your. I'm not sure if it's the gold standard. I don't know, but this can give you a very good sense of chronic alcoholism in a patient, right? The other labs are going to be CDT, GGT, again, like, individually, these two. And then there's AST and ALT, which are your liver enzymes. And then there's going to be MCV, which is mean corpuscular volume, because you know that, like, alcoholism can cause anemia, right? I was telling you about the image that I've included that compares the relative sensitivities and specificities of these labs. So you can see here, AST, ALT, it's all right. It's not too bad. Then there's GGT, which is a little bit better because look at the upper limit over here. And then there's MCV, CDT, and CDT plus GGT are really high, so they're really good to detect chronic alcoholism in a patient, right? Now let's go back up. Okay. I want to talk about all of the complications of alcoholism in general, just to give you an overview of alcoholism and alcohol use disorder, right? Just to give you a multi-system perspective. So patients with alcohol use disorders can develop cerebellar degeneration. You're going to encounter cases of cerebellar degeneration when you do vignettes on your world, okay? And then there's going to be GI bleeds, cardiomyopathy, acute or chronic pancreatitis, right? Acute obviously is more common when there's a binge, when the patient engages in binge drinking. And then there's going to be liver cirrhosis, right? I mean, this alcoholic hepatitis, and then over time that causes liver cirrhosis. Alcoholics are more prone to be involved in motor vehicular accidents. Okay, it's 4 times more common when somebody is intoxicated compared to someone who's sober. Okay, and then there's homicide and suicide. A lot of people who kill someone are drunk. I mean, you gotta do that. It does increase the risk of someone committing homicide or completing suicide. That's the sad reality. And then there's thiamine deficiency. And then there's anemia. Alright. Now, let's talk about a little bit about the pathophysiology of alcohol use dependence, so that when I talk about managing alcohol use disorder, you'll have a little bit of a better idea of why we're using drugs like naltrexone. So when somebody consumes alcohol, there's going to be increase in opiates and GABA in the CNS, right? And when these increase, the receptors for these compounds are increased. And it would be interesting to note that the number of opiate receptors in the CNS is directly related to cravings for alcohol. All right. Now let's talk about the most important part, which is management. So what is the first line for treating alcohol use disorder? The very first line drug is naltrexone. I mean, you can make the correlation between opioids and naltrexone over here. The contraindications to using naltrexone is somebody who has concomitant opioid use disorder, which is more common than you think. And then there's going to be somebody with liver injury. So in these patients, the drug of choice will be second line drug. Oh, I mean, I don't know if it can be called. Yeah, it's a second line drug, acamprosate, right? A lot of people, as soon as they're asked what would you choose to treat alcohol use disorder with, they will immediately say disulfiram. This is a fatal mistake. You should not use disulfiram in somebody who's acutely alcoholic, right? Disulfiram is only used for chronic alcoholism in somebody who is been abstinent for at least 6 months, right? When they're abstinent and then they're scared of a relapse, only then will you put them on disulfiram. Okay, that's not the first line drug, but yes, it is useful to treat chronic alcoholism. You guys already know that you must have heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. So this is a good support group to refer your patient to. All right. I actually forgot to talk about the cancers that come out of alcoholism under complications, so I'm just gonna touch upon that for the sake of completion. There is oropharyngeal cancer, esophageal, and liver. Of course, this list is not an exhaustive one, right? Because there are so many pathological processes in the body that alcohol affects. So this is not a complete list. It's just the ones that most prominently show up on your board vignettes. So I hope this was a good topic. I definitely was very interested in alcohol use disorder and what goes into managing it. So I taught myself, and I hope I've done a good enough job of teaching you. I included videos at the bottom. This is to show how disulfiram acts, right? Um, Disulfiram inhibits aldehyde dehydrogenase over here, and then that is actually uh, why you get that systemic manifestations of giving disulfiram, is because there's increased acetaldehyde in the blood, and that causes all these manifestations, which is what prevents relapse in an alcoholic, in a chronic alcoholic that has been abstinent for a while. So that's that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any requests for topics that you want me to cover, let me know in the comment section below. Um, Thanks a lot and have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.